All right, it's recording. Hello, everyone that's also joining us from other campuses. Everybody wave. Hey, guys. I'm Alicia Dawkins from the Somerville location, and we have already introduced ourselves, but we skipped that part for you guys, so we're going to jump right into the training. So what we're going to go over tonight is we're always going to review the vision so that you guys have that in your hearts, and it's really helpful on a Sunday for a filter. And then Blake Adams from our Somerville campus is going to just talk about sharing and handing off leadership on a Sunday. So what does that look like as suddenly Shara is at North Charleston giving instructions? How do you balance that? How do you lead up? So he'll talk about that, and then I'll just talk about some quick review of when we go back, some notes to take, and I've already shared you guys on a couple of documents regarding preparation for a Sunday. If you do not have those documents, please let me know via email, and I'll get those to you, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So we're going to try to keep it on track. So real quick, Seacoast vision and worship for worship vision. So this is something, if you're having trouble remembering, my team likes to remember the three big words, which are create, reveal, and lead. So Seacoast worship exists to create music and experiences that reveal the heart of God and lead others into his presence. So that's a really big deal, because as we are leading the production and worship team on a Sunday, we really want to create an environment that reveals God's heart and leads people into his presence. As you're running a Sunday, it's really important that you remember our dream team core values, which are love God. So make sure you always spend time in the Word and in prayer before you show up to lead. Love people. On a given Sunday, there are going to be a lot of people stopping you in the atrium. Love on them. Take time to love on them, and then get to your task. But people come first. Have a good attitude, because it can get crazy. And when it gets crazy, you are the thermostat. So make sure you keep that in check on a Sunday, even if things go crazy. And the last thing is make it better. And so that's what you guys are here for. You're here to keep the team on track. Keep the temperature good, and make each service better and each Sunday better. And then for this specific role, for a service producer role, we just kind of talked about this, and for a Sunday, really want you guys to unify and encourage worship and production to keep Sundays clear and exquisite. So obviously, worship and production, it might feel like two different teams, but it is the same. If you're running lyrics, you're the same as the person leading worship on stage, just as important. And the person running lyrics needs encouragement, just like the person on stage. So that's your job on a Sunday, is to unify the teams, encourage the teams, and keep the gospel clear and exquisite. Clear, obviously, we want people to not be distracted. Exquisite, fun word, right? It's from Psalm 36, and it's talking about God's love. And so we really want people to leave in a service, be totally blown away by what they see, that they can't look away, because that's what the gospel is. But then when they leave, we want them to come back. So we want their experience to be exquisite. We want it to be memorable for them. And so that's what we're here to do, is keep everything, distraction free and clear for people on a Sunday. So that's the vision. I'll put it in most every email. It's good for you to get in your hearts. And then as you start leading people, as you're talking on a Sunday, feel free to put it in your language and just keep reminding people what our vision is of what we're doing on a Sunday. So that is vision. And now I'm going to hand it off to Blake, and he is going to talk about sharing leadership. So if you're a worship leader and you're listening to this, please pay attention. And also, you guys receive what Blake's saying, because he did such a great job of setting me up. I literally knew no one when I came in. So I was brand new. A lot of you guys have equity with your team already, which is a huge advantage. But he's just going to talk about what the transfer and share of leadership on a Sunday looks like. Take it away, Blake.
Yeah, so I'm really not going to do a ton of like specific conversation to the worship leaders versus the producers. I think it's kind of all an all-encompassing talk, and so I'm kind of just going to talk with some little caveats. But I think the first thing that is absolutely invaluable for this role is the trust between the producer and the worship leader. And so you guys have that. So I want to go ahead and give you that gold star, or you wouldn't be in this meeting, right? Like, you've been recommended by your worship leader, approached by your worship leader as we've pitched this vision. Like, obviously they trust you. But I think as you start to operate in like a service producer role on a Sunday, I just can't overemphasize like starting slow, like a long on-ramp. That was probably the thing Alicia and I did the best, was that we just like held the reins as tightly as we could of implementing this role, because we might have known the value and have been talking about it for weeks and have planned all this stuff, but our teams were not on that journey with us, right? And so when like Alicia alluded to, she was fairly new to our campus in general. And so I think just because we have all these plans and we see the value, never outrun your people, and that's your team and your room, right? And so I think the best thing I could say is just like all the worship leaders listening, but the producers too, like really build that trust and make sure that the first place critique or any sort of comment analysis comes for the first little bit is to the worship leader. I think Alicia and I kind of shared that. She would have all these things that she would see, and she would filter them through me for a long time, really. And then we would direct those together to the people that needed to see them. And so I just can't overemphasize like building that trust with your worship leader, and then through your worship leader, building that trust with your team. And to all the worship leaders listening, like, I can't overemphasize how much it means for us to continually affirm that we are giving authority, right? That Alicia is not jumping in, that Brad, that Nick, that no one is jumping in and just offering their unsolicited advice. I had a mentor in college that used to say all the time, the worst kind of advice is the unsolicited kind. And so just reminding our teams as consistently as possible that we've asked these people, right? We have asked our producers to do this to make us all better, that it's coming straight from me. And I told Alicia early on, like when I was in high school and trying to lead a godly life, my mom used to say this quote all the time. She was like, if you ever just don't feel like you need to do something, but it's so uncool, right, to say no, blame it on me. Tell them that I told you couldn't, or that you're not allowed. And so I told Alicia early, like, listen, as I empower you and as we do this, let's work really closely together, right? Have the meetings before the meetings. And so we can like be on the same page, but never be afraid to blame stuff on me. And so I would say that to all the producers, like your first couple 90 days, like blame it on your worship leader, like the parents, right? Like use that authority, and worship leaders empower them. So I would give our front of house engineers, hey, listen, I've asked Alicia to do this. And then if Alicia came to me and was like, hey, this mix sounds weird, or this, I would be like, okay, you go tell whoever was mixing for us, and you can totally tell them I said it, even though I didn't, because I'm on the platform with in-ears. So I have no idea what the mix sounds like in the house, right? But as that trust is built, then I was like, blame it on me. The other thing I would say is for the producer role, find those channels, because you guys, you know how our teams work, and it's nothing on a given Sunday for Somerville for us to have like 20 plus people scheduled between the platform and the booth in our worship team. And it's a daunting task for a worship leader to feel responsible to communicate everything to those 20 people. It's equally daunting for a producer to be the worship leader in the room, right? The eyes from that side, and feel like you've got to communicate. And so find some channels. Worship leader helps set them up with some channels. So for us, that looks like an MD. So if it's a band thing that you're hearing, go find the MD, talk to them, let them disseminate that information. If it's a vocal thing, we've got like a vocal director. It might just be like your lead worship leader for the day, whoever's kind of like over the voices. Don't feel like you've got to go, if there's a harmony part wrong, that you got to go talk to every single vocalist on the platform. You know what I mean? Find some channels, because I think that further cements like leading with humility and letting people who have some chips and some equity speak into stuff. And then this one's kind of like a dual point, but one of my biggest things with all the stuff that we do is God really works on me a lot with a critical eye, right? And I think all musicians, so those of you coming from the platform side, you get this. Those of you coming from the production side, you definitely get this. We are so focused on the experience, right? It's in our vision, creating the experience, that sometimes I can get way too critical of the details. And I don't want to say ignore the work or power of the Holy Spirit, but it can become secondary in my mind. And so my encouragement to you guys is, just like Alicia shared, love God, love people, come prayed up, and always be asking the Lord to give you the eyes that he is seeing things through, because it's so easy for us to almost reduce God's will to this fragile state that it relies on us executing everything perfectly, which it totally doesn't. Even if we pull off everything we can completely flawlessly, we don't have the power to sing well enough, play well enough, do transitions smooth enough, anything to save somebody, right? And so my biggest encouragement / warning for you guys is just never get too critical to or feel like that it all is on your shoulders, right? We've got to get everything perfect. And with that, I also just want to say that, love people and the have a great attitude part before make it better in our 2 vision and purpose statements is so important. Like, I would challenge you guys, something that I've been really working on, is before you go offer critique, see if you can like name those person's kids, or see if you know their spouse's name. And if you don't, maybe run it through another channel, maybe run it through your worship leader. And so that's something I'm working on. That's something I want to work with our team on, because I think it's an old saying and it's kind of cheesy, but like, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And I think this role is being elevated to a pastoral position in our campuses as we push it out, right? I totally want to empower Alicia and Glenn and Scott and Chris. I don't just want to delegate them a task. I want to give them authority. And so as we do that, you also take responsibility. And so we have to be really careful that the only time people are hearing from us isn't when we're telling them they need to change, fix, or do something better. And so take that as an encouragement to really get involved with people, invest in their life, learn about them, and maybe use that filter for your first 90 days. Like, hey, do I know their spouse's name? Do I know what's going on in their life? If not, I'm going to run this critique through somebody else, and then I'm just going to focus on what they're doing really well. And like, that would be my challenge to you today. So if you hear a vocalist is pitchy, or a mix sounds weird, if you don't know the engineer well or the worship leader well, instead of going to them and saying, hey, this part, you're flat, or I think the bass is too loud, or whatever it is, if you don't know them and you can't name something personal about them, then talk to your worship leader. Let them push some of that down. Okay, let them be the bad guy for a minute. And then you choose that day to make it your goal to encourage one thing that person you could have critiqued is doing well. So, hey, I love your stage presence, even though your jump is making you super flat. Leave that sentence off. But, whatever it is, find a way to be positive. Because I think what you guys will find, what I have found in my time of ministry, is that, especially for those of us who lead pure dream teams, right? When we don't have people on the platform who are paid, really what we are there for is to show up for them, to care for them, to be in their lives, right? And then this has always got to be secondary, and then to help them discover their purpose and make a difference, right? We want to help them find God and grow their faith long before we start trying to chisel away at what God's put in them. And so I think keeping that our central focus, you won't go wrong. You can never go wrong with encouragement, smiling, loving on people, and then getting to the side that you guys already have. We don't have to coach you on seeing things right. You know what I mean? Like, that's why you're here. But I think just understanding that this will be an elevated level of authority. And with that comes a responsibility sometimes to bite your tongue and let things go, if it means encouraging and building people up, because we never know what people are carrying, even on our team, much less in our room. So last practical thing I would say for the worship leader is empower as much as possible. If you can let it go, let it go. To your service producers, to whoever, but especially for these producer roles. Like, it's not enough. I think the health of a team is shown by how far down decisions can be made. And so, like, my goal for all of our producers is like, listen, I'm giving you the room. I'm trusting you with it. As long as we are in communication and you know the vision I feel God has given us for Somerville, and you know the vision that God's given Garrett and Pastor Josh Walters and Pastor Josh Surratt for Seacoast, then I want you to feel empowered. And if you drop the ball, guess what? We'll talk about it, but I still love you and I still want you empowered, right? And so try your best not to micromanage. And producers, try to lead with that confidence that you've been handed this mantle and that we want you to step up and take it. So.
Thank you, Blake. I feel like everyone's clapping for you in their minds. That was so good. So many tweetable leadership things in there. Very, very helpful. One side note, just for worship leaders, and I will put this in the email too. If you can, go ahead and add service producer to your PCO assignments, and then begin scheduling your folks that way. And then, guys, as you begin to raise up people under you, which is the goal of this, is for you to build a team out at your campus, because obviously you don't want to be running the ship, every week forever. That's not our hope for you. So go ahead and be thinking about other people that you can identify. And I do, you watch, you do, I watch, and then they do it. So they come with you on a Sunday, they shadow, you shadow them leading, and then you let them lead, and at your own pace. So you'll know if they're ready to lead on a Sunday, even just with you there. But it's good to identify people and go through that process. And then when you do get a group of people, then you can begin scheduling that role through PCO, and they'll show you how to do that because Blake just showed me how to send the email to them. So if y'all have questions about that, let me know. But I'm just going to give you guys a quick rundown of a few reminders of as we go back. You can take notes. A lot of what I'm going over is in documents that I sent you guys. So in that preparation list, and then also just like the description role. But if you guys have questions, we're going to have time at the end for you guys to ask that. So I'm just going to run through a couple of things that I highlighted and wrote down. The first thing really is just, I can't emphasize it enough to make sure you spend time with the Lord before you show up on Sunday. I know it can be an early morning, but just make sure that you have gotten that time to set your mind at ease. And then make sure you're early. So you're the leader now, and people, already getting there earlier. I would love it if you guys could be there before band. So even if band call time ours is now at like 7, so I'll be there at 6:50. But there's always going to be the one guitar player that gets there super early, so don't feel like it's some kind of race. We've got Carl at our campus. There's no beating him there. But I want you to be there early so that you can be prepared. Be informed. So if you do not have access on Teams to the Saturday night service, please let your worship leader know that you need access to that. It's a really good way for you to prep. So Saturday night you can go on to Teams and you can look at that. Or is it an email, Blake, that they send out?
It's a Teams document, the weekend update.
Okay, the weekend update. So just make sure that you ask your worship leader about that. Make sure you're on it. As you watch that, some things to look for. You don't have to watch the whole service. I really just look for a couple of things. I look to see what was the bumper before the message. If it's a dark bumper, I typically like our lights on stage to be blacked out. If it's a bright bumper, just so you can think ahead of time, what is that going to look like on our stage as it translates? Did he say amen twice? Make sure that transition is there. When did the keys come in? So make sure you turn the volume up, and as soon as you hear keys come in, make a note of that. Even though Mike sends that out, I still think it's good for you to get an ear for it, because sometimes the keys come through super loud and sometimes super soft. So make note of that just so you know going into the day. And then that's pretty much it for Saturday night service. So just look over it. Blake, do you have your hand raised? Go ahead.
I totally answered your question wrong because I misunderstood. I thought you meant the weekend update Mike sends on Thursday.
Okay.
So that document comes as Teams. The weekend review comes on Saturday via email. You were correct.
Okay, so get your worship leader, and worship leaders, if you're hearing me, get them on that email for weekend review. Make sure they know how to open that file so they can look at it. Then also, okay, when you get there, check in with your tech booth. So even if the tech people aren't there, go ahead and look at the announcement slides. You should already have access to all that on PCO of what the announcements are going to be. But check that, make sure you have it. Check with your worship leader. Hey, are there any new announcements or any changes that I need to be aware of? Check the pre-reels if you know how to do that. And Shara, I don't know that you've done a lot of tech stuff yet. So if you haven't, just touch base with your person. So whoever's doing that, hey, let's go ahead and look at the slides before you do run through and check them. Sometimes in pre-loop, there might be like a date wrong or one that doesn't need to be in there anymore. So just check on that. And then anything that you know. So like for the example I said was the bumper's dark. So, hey, lighting person, we're going to make sure that we black out when the bumper comes on. And then whenever you get there too, go ahead and set up a group text. This is one of the most important things of the day. So in that group text, depending on your campus, you should have in that text the worship leader, obviously yourself, the sound tech. If you have a coordinator, the coordinator. For you in particular, Shara, I think you guys only have 2 people. So whoever your tech person is that does all the tech, have them in that text. MD, if you have an MD, whoever is doing keys, and then your campus pastor if he is the host that day. If you have a guest speaker, like maybe it's the Kids Coast person, make sure that they're in the group text so they are aware of what's happening as well. So start that group text. Hey everybody, good morning. I'm Shara. I'm going to be communicating with you today. And so that's going to be the place where you want to remind people after the service, you're going to have a quick debrief meeting with this group of people for celebration and feedback. So celebration first and then feedback. Another thing to get with your worship leader with this week is to find out what is your pre-service schedule going to look like. We've had a lot of talk about changing this process a little bit, and so I know a few of the campuses have implemented this, but double check with them about call time. And what we're going for is we want to now have a full production run through before the first service so that we can see the whole thing with transitions, not just the music. We want to see everything. We want to see slides. We want to fast forward through the sermon. And if you have questions about what does a full production run through look like, please feel free to reach out to me and I can get more detailed with that. But it's best to check with your worship leader about that ahead of time just so you know what the layout of the day is going to look like. Then what we do, and something that's really important too, is when you get there, if you have any questions, so maybe you saw something weird that happened on Mount Pleasant, or maybe there's like a baptism that day, ask your worship leader any questions you have before you get into sound check. So, hey, Blake, I just want to confirm like 5 things with you before we jump in so that you're well informed. And then what we typically do, we have a sound check, line check, and then we have a very quick meeting, 5-minute meeting that you are going to lead, and you're going to walk everybody through the day. So I think it would be really good in the beginning, worship leader, if you could start that meeting and introduce your service producer, let the whole team know, hey, this is Scott. He's going to be leading the day today. He's going to walk us through what it looks like. He's going to be communicating with us today. Just so you know, if he's walking around the room or he's asking you to do something, he's going to be helping us make our service better. So set them up for success. That's a great place to implement giving over that authority. So then you guys be prepared. This is not a Devo time. It's literally walk through the layout of the day. I do have a document that I plan on sharing with you guys. I'm waiting to hear about what service flow is going to look like, but it's a Google Doc, and it basically runs through the day. It's just like PCO, except it's got some time numbers in it to make sure you stay on task with the service. But it's just kind of a one-stop shop document to see everything you might need. So I'll get that to you guys. But I basically just run through that whole thing. I have it memorized before I get there. Here's the layout of the day. Hey, Keith, this is when you're going to go do keys, if that's your keys guy. But make sure you give your people the details of the day. Then as you go into your full production run through, that's when you are the person in the room that you want to place yourself like somebody that just walked into the church for the first time. So you don't want to place yourself as I'm a really good sound person, or I'm a guitar player, I'm a singer. This is where you get to become an everyday person that comes in the room. Is that thing that just happened going to distract you, or does it matter? You know, so don't think about it in a very technical, ooh, that was like too distracting. Think about it as like a normal person in the room. That lyric was all that is going to mess me up because I'm new. And so that is going to be important to have your eyes on lyrics. You want to look at the pace of the lyrics, especially if it's a new song. Make sure that they're on task and that it's singable. Look for all the transitions. Make sure it feels right. If it doesn't feel right, make sure you note that. So take all the notes. When they're having a full production run, take all the notes in your phone. It's not the time to go over to the CG person and give them instructions, because let me tell you something. I ran CGs, and it is, do not interrupt the CG person, okay? So hold all your notes until the end of the production run through. And you want to look at lighting. How did everything look? How did everything sound? And then you want to be in charge of that host mic. So if you are doing a full production run through and your host is not there, go ahead and go on stage and check the slides. Hey, I'm Pastor Roy today. Welcome to Somerville campus. He's going to talk about these two announcements, and then go ahead and have your person share those announcements. Oh, and I'm so sorry. I said CGs, and that means lyrics. So, AKA pro presenter. So I'm very sorry for my, and I'm not even like technical, so that's like, wow. But lyrics.
Interpretation in the chat, because I didn't know that until Alicia taught me that was a thing. Like, that's insider language for all you cool people. I didn't know it.
Yeah. So I ran lyrics is what I meant to say the other week, and it was very challenging. But I do also want you guys to do that. I want you to try different things in the tech booth just so you know what it's like. If you're going to lead these people, I want you to get in their shoes. And you don't have to be a sound expert or a pro presenter expert, but I think it's good for you to have exposure, maybe like on a ladies' night or something like that. Just, you know, something that you can get practice. But take all your notes for production run through and then communicate with the team. We have a meeting just all together as a group before we go on. That's where we establish any changes that need to be made. But if you have multiple services, like I know North Charleston is like us, they have 3 services. After every service, text the group, hey guys, we're going to meet and decide on where you guys are going to meet. We meet in a closet, so make sure everybody can fit in there. But only the people on the group text need to come to that meeting, because they're going to then communicate everything that needs to be changed to their teams. Like Blake was saying, you want to filter it, because a lot of people at first you're not going to have that relationship with them. So when you come into that meeting, even if you're really fired up about something bad that happened, remember the Lord is still present. He still showed up. People got saved. Address that first. Hey, you guys, people got saved. Like, let's celebrate. Like, have a good attitude. Remember that. and then talk about how you can make it better. Give other people in the room opportunity to speak first because they might address something that you're going to critique. So let them bring it up first, and then anything else that they didn't address, that would be your opportunity to lead in that moment. I have just started doing this with Pastor Roy. I think it would be good for you to check with your worship leader and make sure that your campus pastor would want this. But I have started texting him a timestamp for his welcome and for his close. So I let him know, hey, that was, you know, 1:49, or that was exactly 2 minutes. And a little bit of like, it was really awesome. Build that encouragement up. Because we want to make sure as we're flipping services that we're staying on time. But if you have someone that's like a guest, maybe they are care team and they're coming up and they're doing it and it's extra long. Hey, just so you know, that was 4 minutes, you know, and you don't need to say anything then, but maybe one off, let them know like, hey, if there's anything you could take out to shorten it. If they ask you what you could take out, be prepared to tell them something they could take out to make it shorter. But we want to respect the time. And then the last two things, be a velvet brick. This is what we talk about all the time. As you are establishing this relationship and you're critiquing, you want to come at it soft, but you do want to be confident in what you're doing and authoritative. So don't question yourself. The Lord has chosen you to be in this role. And so be humble as you go throughout it, and, you know, let your worship leader help you. But encourage, encourage, encourage. You are the cheerleader. Who in the world, as the sound guy, ever gets a high five for what he did, right? Who that does lyrics is like, oh my God, you nailed it. Like, they don't ever get thanked. So this is your opportunity to just say, that was amazing. That transition, you guys in the whole tech booth, y'all nailed it. Everybody needs encouragement. The people that are singing, they need encouragement. The guitar player, hey, I loved how expressive you were on stage today. Like, you have no idea. Your energy just brought it to the room. So you are the thermostat of the entire team. Your attitude is going to affect everybody. So fake it till you make it. If you're in a bad mood, get you some coffee. Put a smile on. Just like, I don't know if y'all were there this past Sunday, but use the smile. Convince yourself you are joyful this morning. And then, like Blake said, as you're establishing those relationships, get on social media and blow these people up. Get their numbers if you want to from your worship leader and just send them a text. I was brand new and some people weren't having me in the beginning, and that's okay. If they're not having you, then you extra be nice to them. It's not even proper English, but get to know them. Ask them to coffee, you know, look them up. How many kids do you have? You know, really, like, send them a text and just say, like, the way that you directed as the MD today, I just have to let you know that it's like eternal work you're doing. So really reach out to your team and let them know that you notice them, because people love to be encouraged. And as a leader, you don't want to not encourage. So that's it. Raise up new leaders. Start thinking about who you know that can do this role. You don't want to be the only one. So you want to raise up a team. I'm going to have a baby soon, so my team better be ready in January to tag team with SeacoastService. Like, oh, yeah. So they're going to have to help me out. But we will do trainings once a month, just to let you guys know. I will keep you posted on those. If you haven't been to one of those yet, we usually watch another church and look at what they did and critique, and also take away things that we like. But that's just good to train our eyes and ears for the role. So I want to keep us sharp on that. And I really, really want to come to your campus eventually. So as I get my team rolling and scheduled, because I'm still working on scheduling, you guys, then I would hope to come to your campuses and hang out with you guys. But I am a resource, so please, please let me know how it goes. I do want to hear back from you guys, especially after this Sunday. Any questions, any feedback you have, please let me know. And then I'll schedule another meeting probably in 2 weeks after we've got the 5th. I hope everybody knows, like, we're doing live band, right? Everybody knows that. They don't know. The people don't know, but we're going to surprise them. And then they really know on the 12th. So after the 12th, I would like to have just a recap meeting and get your feedback on that. So it's 7:47. Wow. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask away. You don't have to raise your hand, just unmute yourself. Not everybody at once. Do we have any questions? And if you don't, that's okay. As we go back, if you do have questions or you're looking for something or you need anything, you guys all have my cell phone number. Text me, call me, email me, just let me know. I want to be a resource. I'm like super nerd out over this role for you guys. So it's going to be huge to your campus. And I do want you guys to know, like, what a big deal it is, because we are elevating our worship leaders to have more time to minister to people, to be present in the room and lead worship. And so this is our opportunity to serve them, but also to serve the people coming through the doors. So you guys get to make it clear and exquisite for them, and that's the goal. And so I'm so thankful for all of you. I cannot thank you enough for taking time out from your families and whatever it is that you do at night. We really appreciate it. So if y'all need anything, let me know. This is going to be recorded, so I'll send it out to you as a reference. But also check those documents out and get with your worship leader. Be prepared for this Sunday. Even if you're dual rolling, I know some of you, might be, I know Shara is leading worship and doing this on this particular Sunday. That's okay. Just communicate with her so that you're in the know. But if you guys need anything before Sunday, let me know. But I'm stoked. We're going back, you guys, and we'll keep you posted on service flow and what it's going to look like. I think we're just kind of testing things out, going from web to live, and how that's going to translate in a room where you can't have people move around, et cetera, et cetera. So keep that in mind. Think ahead for your worship leader and campus pastor. Something that is super important is even ask the question to them, how do you guys plan on dismissing the room? That was something that came up for us. We are dismissing our room in sections so that not everybody is plowing through the door. So just things like that, maybe ask proactively to be in the know too of what is the plan for Sunday. So anything you have questions about, get with your worship leader and ask them. Otherwise, I'm gonna let you guys go 10 minutes early. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here tonight. I really appreciate you guys, and we will talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye. One by one, they exited.